Hello there, everyone. It's me again, Timmy64 here again. Today, I am now back with another game review, which today we're going to do now on another Sega Dreamcast game. I haven't really touched on the Dreamcast to be honest, but today I actually want to now do it. So, today's game we're going to be looking at is another racing game. And today's game is Test Drive Le Mans for the Sega Dreamcast, released back in 2000 for the Sega Dreamcast. Nearly this game is almost 26 years old, but either way, enough with my thingy majiggy and let's get into this review. Of course, first we're gonna go into the a little history about this game. This game was first developed by Infra Melbourne House, I think you call it. I don't know like how you call it here, but either way, they made the Dreamcast, PS2, and PC remake of this game. It's Chinny X. I don't know. These companies just have so complex names, but either way, they made the PlayStation 1 and I think like PC version, however, of course, a remake version. And the Wells and Dumbbell made the Game Boy Color version. Of course, so yeah, it's a little bit of history. In terms of release dates, first let's just begin. For European, for the PlayStation version, it came out on 26th of November 1999. This is for the PlayStation version specifically. And it came out nationally on 4th of May 2000, nationally for the PlayStation version. The Windows version nationally first came out on 29th of March 2000. Europeans got it on August 1st, 2000. Game Boy Color version came out nationally back in 2000, well, actually 27th of June 2000, and also in Europe on 14th of December 2000. The Dreamcast port released on the 8th of November 2000, and in Europe on 25th of October 2000. PlayStation 2 version released back in Europe on 20 on sorry about that 22nd of June 2001 and nationally on 21st of August 2001. And finally, the Windows remake released in Europe on 24th of May 2002 and nationally a month later on 1st of June 2002. But either way, that's enough for the release dates. Today, now, I'm of course focusing on the Dreamcast port. As you would suspect, this game came out for Sega Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, Windows PC, and also the Game Boy Color. So, yeah. It also came out for the PlayStation 1, I think. So now we're also now going to go into the controls of this game. Controls wise are not too actually hard. The R trigger is like used to accelerate the vehicle, L trigger is used to brake the vehicle, and the X button can be used to actually look what's behind you. The other buttons I think are like used for shifting purposes. I think like the A or B one like is used for like the like I think Y is just used to like change the view of your camera, and the A and B buttons are used to shift up and shift down when you're in manual mode. Also, the analog stick can be used to steer the vehicle left and right. So yeah, not much I could possibly say. I think the D-pad also does the same either way. So yeah. Next is the handling of the vehicles. Test Drive Le Mans is basically a sim racer. Now, generally, I've gone like really used to a lot of arcade games. However, there is still a certain part of my heart that just generally likes the sim racing games. Not that the fact I would say also probably I possibly put Gran Turismo also in there. So yeah, the physics here does kind of a little bit remind me of like Sega GT and also the Gran Turismo. I mean, of course, this is meant to just be a sim race at the end of the day. But either way, yeah. Next is also the graphics. Now, of course, I actually had this upscaled while I was playing the game, but in normal Dreamcast resolution, not too bad actually for a Sega Dreamcast game from 19. Well, actually, no, not the 1990s, but rather the 2000s. So yeah, next is all the car models. Car models don't look well too bad. They don't look like bad, like the worst I would say, but they just look okay for the most part. Like not too shabby, not too much. Now it's time for some game review, shall we? First off, I'm gonna do the Dreamcast version. CNET Game Center gave the Dreamcast version a 9 out of 10. Sadly, I don't have one for Computer Gaming World or EP Daily Eurogaming. So yeah, but Electronic Gaming Monthly gave the Dreamcast version a 9.17 out of 10. GameStop gave this game a 9.6 out of 10. Well, Game Revolution. Sorry for my pronunciation. A B plus. GameSpy gave the game a 9 out of 10. IGN gave the game a 9.4 out of 10. Next Generation gave the game a 5 out of 5. And Nintendo Power sadly I don't have here. Official US PlayStation magazine sadly I also don't have here. PC Gamer US version. Sadly I don't have it there. But either way, yeah. The Game Boy Color version got a average score of game rankings on 75 out of percent. Sadly, Metacritic never gave it 1. The Game Boy Color version on CNET Game Center got a 7 out of 10. Sadly, most of these ones here, but also GameStop gave this game a 8.1 out of 10. IGN gave this game the Game Boy Color version. Generally, I'm actually reading the Game Boy Color versions, so just keep in mind of that. IGN gave it a 7 point, a 7 out of 10. Nintendo Power gave it the game a 6.6 out of 10. Now the PC version got, let's see here, the PC version for game ranking got a 68 out, like a 68%, and the second one, well, I think that the remake got a 67%. I'm not lying when I say the 67. If you don't believe me, just go into the Wikipedia yourself. They actually gave us a 67%, but either way, I'm not gonna do 67 anymore. Also, it also got 60 out of 100. The PC version also on CNET Game Center got a 3 out of 10. Yeah, it got that low. Yeah, okay. Computer Gaming Monthly gave the game a 2.5 out of 5, and also the first one 1.5 out of 5. EP Daily gave this game a 7.10, a 7 out of 10. Eurogame gave this game a 8 out of 10. GameStop gave this game again another 6.7 out of 10. What's it up with these 6.7s? But either way, the second, I think that the remake, yeah, also got a 6.1 out of 10. A little bit more lower than the first version, but okay. Next is IGN. They gave the PC version a 7.5 out of 10, and the second one, well, I think that the remake, when they actually mean the second one, sorry about that, a 6 out of 10. PC gamers for the second one gave it a 55%, and the second one and the first one a 53%. So yeah, the PS1 version, like the PlayStation version, on game rankings only got a 70%. Metacritic never gave it a response, so I don't know. The PS1 version, I think, got like it got a 6 out of 10 on CNET Game Center. Sadly, Computer Gaming Monthly never gave it. Electronic Gaming Monthly gave it a 7 out of 10. EP Daily gave this game a 6.5 out of 10. Game Informer gave this game a 3.75 out of 10. GameStop gave this game a 6.2 out of 10. IGN gave this game a 6.5 out of 10. And also the official US PlayStation magazine gave it a 2.5 out of 5. Yikes, it's bad. Also, of course, the last one here is the PS2 version, which I think I'm gonna be done by doing these. Well, I'm really sorry, guys, for coughing a lot. Game rankings gave this game a 76 out of 76%. Metacritic gave it a 75 out of 100. However, for some reason, the only ones here are Electronic Gaming Monthly gave it a 8 out of 10. EP Daily gave it a 9 out of 10. Game Informer gave it a 8.5 out of 10. Game Revolution gave it a B minus, unless you're of course American and you understand that. Sadly, in South Africa we use codes 1 to 7. But either way, GameStop gave it a 8.2 out of 10. GameSpy gave it a 65. IGN gave it a 8 out of 10. Next Generation gave it a 3 out of 5. And official US PlayStation magazines gave it a 2.5 out of 5, of course, as the PS1 version. Now it's finally time to the conclusion on what do I think of this game. Personally, Test Drive Le Mans is not a bad game for its time. I mean, considering that these Metacritics are not as low, the only good and actually good one I think was like the Sega Dreamcast port. Considering that this one was actually just as good as like the like like PS2 port, if you know what I mean. But yeah. So yeah, there's nothing much I could possibly say about Test Drive Le Mans. This game turns 26 years old now, so yeah, nothing much I could possibly say. But either way, if you guys generally enjoyed this review of me doing Test Drive Le Mans for the Sega Dreamcast, please consider like subscribing. And yeah, I also want to know what sorry about that. Or like what other type of racing review should I do? Game Boy Color, Nintendo DS. What should it be? Give me your opinions, guys. Anyways, that's it. So goodbye.